Hello guys, and welcome to this tutorial called Things That You Should Know While Doing a WR3D Arena. In this tutorial I'm going to show you a group of things that you should know when you're creating a WR3D arena. Things that you should consider, things that will make your designs better, and things that you should do if you don't want your arenas to crash. So let's start right now. The first thing I want to talk about is about residual objects. Those are objects that are not actually visible in our scene, in our design, but those are objects that are consuming space in the arena, and those are basically elements that we don't see and are making our arena heavier. So how do we identify them? It's easy, it's simple. For example, this SummerSlam 2017. Select everything, right click, select invert, and we can see that there are a lot of elements that we are not actually seeing in our scene, elements that we don't see, and those elements are like actually consuming some space and loading time. So we're going to delete them. And as you can see, the arena design is not affected at all. So we're going to save it as just triple S. I don't know, I just want to identify the file. And you can see that this file weighs 2.8 megabytes. And if we go to the file that we just saved, it's now 2.5 megabytes. Now let's talk about how to create Titantrons. As you may know, Titantrons was a feature that was introduced by Leo in 2021 approximately, and all the arenas that were designed before he created that feature are not prepared, are not like configured to display Titantrons. And if the arena file is not configured to that, then the game is going to crash basically if you try to use the arena. So we're going to fix this in this way. We're going to select all the elements of this design that we want to have the Titantron screen. We're going to combine it in one single element because that's how it is demanded. So we're going to do it like that, and let's start now. First of all, I want to apply my Titantron in these three objects, so I'm going to select them. You have to hold the control key of your keyboard if you want to make a multiple selection. Now I have those three elements that in our hierarchy tab are over here, so we're going to duplicate them because the Titantron feature is not like actually displayed in the actual screens, so we have to use a new ones. Now let's drag those elements into a part that we can actually like work with them. For example, I don't know, like over here we have those three elements grouped, so we're going to change the name of one of them, for example this one, and let's put it Titantron. This is just because we want to like keep a track of these objects and we want to know where they are, and I'm going to select those two objects and move it into this object. So now it's technically one object, but this is not enough. Okay, now what we're going to do with these three objects is we're going to move it like a little to the front. We're going to do something like this. We want it to be more closer to the ring than the actual screens, so you can see that we have now this screen and the other one that is behind. Let me show you like the logic behind Titantrons. Let's suppose that this is our Titantron texture, alright, that is located in the Titantrons folder, or let's suppose that this is our video Titantron. The thing that the Titantron feature is going to do is like it's going to find an element called Titantron and it's going to apply this texture, something like this. So if we have this element in his original position, it was like more over here. It was like this. This is what's going to happen if you apply the Titantron and you didn't move the screen like a little more to the front. As you can see, this is going to happen. So we have to always move it a little bit to the front because we want to display the Titantron in this screen, and it's going to look like this. Now, an important step that some arena makers are not aware of is this one. Let's put the original texture back. It was this one. Okay, now we have those three elements, right? We want to apply the Titantron on these screens. We need these elements to be only one single element because the game just reads one Titantron element. So what we're going to do is like go to Tools, Optimization and Merge Selection. This combines the selection that you had. I selected these three elements, these new screens, and combined it into one single screen that is called Merge. Always it's called Merge by default. So let's change the name. We need it to be called Titantron. And this is the 3D object that is going to show the Titantron screens in your game. So this is how it's done. Basically, we also need to duplicate it and create a new object called Titan. And you may be wondering, why do we need two Titantron screens? And I'll answer you. That's because there are some group of mods that instead of reading the Titantron 3D element, reads the Titan element. So if you don't have this one in those kind of mods, the game is going to crash. And if you don't have this one, the game is going to crash in recent mods if you try to use this arena file. So we need to have both of them, and we don't want those elements to interfere with the Titantron texture in our scene. And what am I talking about? Let's suppose that the Titantron texture is applied, okay? This is how the game is going to look if we don't hide it. So we need to, let's put it back how it was. We need to hide them because we don't want the Titantron always visible. We just want it visible when the game is like showing the entrances. So we're going to hide it. And this is how it's done. Now, the original WR3D game requires some specific elements to be in the Flare3D arena file. I already created a Flare3D file that includes all of those elements, and it's a file that I'm going to share with you in the description of this video. I just open it. It has all of these elements. Those elements are like originally demanded for the original WR3D game. You cannot miss those 3D objects because the game is basically going to crash if you use an arena that doesn't have those elements. The last step I'm going to show you today is about arena lighting and how to make your arena looks better when the lights are turned on in the game. First of all, let's unmark this box. And let's change the point lights because we want to get this. This is an approximation on how the game is going to look when the lights are turned on. So, as you can see in real wrestling shows, the screens are shiny and it doesn't matter if the lights of the actual stadium are like not brilliant or are brilliant. So, if you want to fix this, this is not an actual problem, but if you want to change this to give it a more realistic perspective, you have to select the object that has like an actual LED screen. We're going to Materials tab. This is only possible in Flare3D 2.7, or I don't know, I actually don't know because I haven't used Flare3D 2.8 in years. So we're going to select the material, and we're going to click on this like checkbox. We don't want it to be like selected, and this is how it's going to look. Now repeat the same process for every screen that is an actual screen, for every 3D object, sorry, that is on a screen. a LED screen. This one is also a LED screen, so turn off lights. And this one is also a LED screen. So this is how it looks. As you can see, it gives like a more realistic perspective, a more realistic lighting. And the final thing that we should do is like modify this general light. In the most recent mods we have to use like a light that is not very strong. We should use like a softer light. I don't know how to say it, but I hope you understand while I show you. We don't want the light to be very colored. I mean, like be on the right side of this small box. We want it to be like more softer, less intense, less brilliant, because the difference is very visible in the game and the lights are not that strong in real life. So it's a small detail but also gives like some points when you're designing your arena. We don't want it to be this strong, we want it to be like softer, and we want it to be less shiny. So we select a color that is not very darker. We want to select a color that is actually shiny but is not this strong. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say you. Like in this zone of the screen, even this zone of the color palette, this is like the best color that we can use, well, at least from my perspective. And well, now I think I've finished. As you can see, there's a visible difference between how this arena file was before I started like to modify it, and it also has now like the Titantron features. So this is how you create arenas and all the things that you should consider when you're creating arenas for recent WR3D mods. Well guys, that's all for today. I hope you find useful this tutorial. I'm not the best explaining, I don't have an English fluency, I'm still training that, so if I wasn't clear enough, I sincerely apologize, because I just tried to do my best to explain you the things that are important when you're creating WR3D arenas. So let me know if you want more tutorials about WR3D arenas and what you want me to explain you. So this is all. Hope you liked this tutorial and see you in the next time.